My name is Batya Podos, and I am an ordained Magid, a Magidah, which is a storyteller, teacher, and preacher in the Jewish tradition. I was the education director at Pnei Or of Portland. I work also now for Sherry Torah Synagogue and PJ Library, and I am also the youth ministry coordinator for the First Congregational Church of the United Church of Christ. It's a great combination.
And I'm Barbara Campbell. I'm pastor at St. Mark Presbyterian Church, which has been sharing its facility with Pnei Or, a Jewish Renewal Fellowship, for 8 years. We want to begin by telling sort of the story of how our intensive interfaith work started, and because it was very serendipitous and unplanned, we realized that a day ahead of time that the Passover service of Pnei Or and the Good Friday service of St. Mark were planned for the same time in the same space at the church. And as it turned out, I was sitting in the choir loft. We were practicing music for Good Friday, and I looked down and saw the Pnei Or setup person putting out their songbooks in the sanctuary, and it just hit me. So what I did was I called the rabbi. I kept thinking, what would happen if we tried to do something together? And Rabbi David said, "Oh, really? How would we do that?" And it was so cute because he kept saying, I've got to go pray about this. And he'd leave my office, and about 10 minutes he'd come back and he'd say, "Okay." So we put together a service that turned out to be one of the most inspiring and meaningful services that people in both of our faith communities talked about since then. That changed the relationship between our two faith communities. We started thinking about the fact that our two smaller communities had only a handful of children. And I have done a lot of summer day camps and summer camping, and so I wanted some sort of experience for our children, but knew that with as few as we had, it really wouldn't work. And so I started thinking of the children at Pnei Or, and through an interfaith council knew that there were children at a nearby mosque, the Rizwan Mosque, that's about a mile from here as the crow flies. And so Batya and I started putting our heads together to think about putting together an interfaith day camp.
So it began really like a family event, because we had 3 congregations of the 3 Abrahamic faiths, and we wanted to do something for our own children and give them an experience that they just couldn't get elsewhere. And we didn't really, I didn't know, I don't know if I can speak for we, I didn't know that nobody else did this. It didn't seem like it was that unique. It seemed like there must be camps like this somewhere, but apparently there's not. And so the idea of bringing children of different faiths together and doing a spiritual camp was something that I guess just emerged from conversations with the families and with the teachers and the leadership of Pnei Or and St. Mark and Rizwan Mosque. So the first year, we focused on the Abrahamic lineage. And our story was, we're all Abraham's children. That's why we called it Abraham's tent. And we all come from the same root. We just have different branches, where we have a different sacred book and we worship differently, but really we come from the same place and we are more alike than we are different. And it was a revelatory experience, not just for the children who we saw becoming friends and really relating in the most positive ways to each other and learning about each other's faiths and customs and asking questions about what they were learning, but for the teachers and the parents involved. We couldn't get them to stop talking to each other about what was going on in the camp and get back to the children. And so it became really clear that this was something that had to continue. It was a precious thing that we needed to foster and nurture and bring out into the world in some way. So the second year, we still kept it within our community, and it was peacemaking. It was peacemaking. By the third Abraham's Tent session, we decided, let's open it up. And we started asking other synagogues and other churches and other mosques to become a part. And this year, we are actually working on a website, and we will have a Facebook page and do all kinds of things that we just never considered when we began, because it seems important that we open it to more children, more families, especially in this time of such misinformation and hatred, that if the children understand each other, then we can get the families to understand each other, and then we have just a little chance of there being a little more peace and a little less hatred in the world.
The third year, our theme was environmental, and we had the older groups did a lot of day field trips to places around Portland where they could actually do environmental projects. And then this year, we're planning to have a theme of family, talking about what it means to be a family and communication and peacemaking in the family. One of the important things that to this whole project for us is that the planning for the camp happen by all three faith communities. Teachers and leaders need to be involved from the very beginning with everything we do, so that everyone feels quite comfortable about what's going to be said and what the projects are going to be and what the children are going to learn at the camp. What happened after we had this Passover Good Friday experience and the first Abraham's Tent was the community, Penaor and St. Mark, felt drawn to do more things together. And so we have continued the joint services during Holy Week, sometimes on Monday, Thursday, sometimes on Good Friday, with Penaor. Recently, when it does not fall on Sabbath, on Friday evening, when it's on a Thursday, we do a Yizkor service, which is the Jewish prayers for the martyrs, prayers for the dead, mourning for the dead, and supporting those who grieve, in the context of telling the story of Jesus' death. And again, adds such a dimension to the whole experience of Good Friday, because you almost feel as if these might have been the prayers that the disciples and Jesus' family said for him after he had died. And we remind everyone that there were tens of thousands of other Jews crucified, lining the roads into Jerusalem along with Jesus, whom we have started to call Rabbi Yeshua, because that was really the role that he played when he walked on earth. And to know that the things that Rabbi Yeshua said and taught came out of a deep study and love of Torah, add such a great dimension to our own understanding of why Jesus taught these lessons and what he was thinking and what he was experiencing as a good Jewish boy on earth.
It may seem fashionable for instance, to do a Good Friday service where Kaddish is said for Rabbi Jesus, or to hold a Seder in a church. It may seem that, well, that's really sweet, isn't that nice? But what happens is so much beyond that. That what's happened for us is that we've actually become one family under the divine, a God that has so many names and aspects and faces that we can't even really define what that God is, and that we recognize that we are all the same children of that, whatever it is, however we call it and however we call it to us. And because of this work, becoming this intimate family of faith and keeping to our discrete practices. We're not all just one faith. We keep to our discrete practices, but we also have become this sort of this spiritual family. It is utterly transformative. And the reason we do this work is to offer it to others so that they can also experience this extraordinary transformation where we are no longer labeling what we are not as the other, but we are loving the stranger as ourselves. We are becoming the stranger as well as ourselves.